This talk, small talk, not seminar. Okay, something happened 800 years back. And what happened that destroyed our world? That made us miserable, frustrated as we are today, lonely, insecure, and also fearful, anxious. That's what we are facing today. People are happy, but they are not peaceful. People are enjoying, but they are not satisfied. People are living their life, but there is no meaning to life. And in fact, one philosopher, Ludwig Wittgenstein, he said that we ask so many questions in life, but there are just two questions. At the end, everything boils to two questions. At the end of your life, you'll be just finding answers to two questions. That is, what is life? What is meaning of life? That's all. And if you don't get the answers to these questions, you are frustrated. So, something happened 800 years back which has led us to this position. A technological, materialistic civilization with no peace of mind. And what happened was systematic destruction of Vedas. Systematic destruction of Vedic knowledge. Now, but this systematic destruction was not done by humans. It was not planned by humans. It was planned by time. And time, we all know, it's a great destroyer. Destroys everything. What happened in our history that we are now here? What did time plan that we have ended up in this situation? History starts with Islamic period. As far as my talk concerns, in 6th century to 9th century, religion, Islam, it was at its peak. And in Europe, it was dark ages. We all know. But in the Middle East, the Islamic world, it was a golden period. If you read history, from 6th century to, you can say, to 9th and 10th century, Islamic world, Middle East, it was sending messengers everywhere, far to India, to China, and they were getting knowledge from there. Messengers were going, they were preaching. At the same time, they were also interacting with people. And we interact with people, you not only give them, but also take from them. And they came to India, they went to China, and they saw that India, at that time, India was the golden bird. We all know. India had a lot of money. If you go to, in India, at that time the capital of India was Patna, Patliputra. And many Chinese ambassadors, Hung Sen and all these people, they came to India. And when they saw India, they were surprised. There are records written. When they saw India, they were surprised. They were surprised that in India, nobody was putting locks. No locks to the doors. No locks to the doors. I mean to say, you can imagine a society, no locks to the doors. Everybody goes out. He doesn't lock. That means people were very truthful. They didn't steal. They had values. That means they had values. They had so strong values that they didn't harm anybody. And then he saw in India so much gold, which was not to be found anywhere. Spices. India used to export spices, pepper, and all other spices, which we taste today, whatever we have. There was export, import, money, power, education, and they were so influenced by that. When Middle East came here at this time, then they found this knowledge, and they were, of course, lured by it. They took all this knowledge back to Islamic world. They translated this knowledge from Sanskrit to their language, Arabic. For example, there was a famous scholar, if you know or don't know, whose name was Al-Biruni. If you go to Google, just Google him. Al-Biruni. Al-Biruni was a famous scholar. He came, he read Sanskrit, he met Brahmanas who had knowledge, and he could find that it's amazing. I mean, he was simply his intelligence suspended. What the knowledge was, I'm going to tell after some time. But so that books were translated into Sanskrit. But while that time, another thing was happening back in Europe, and from 12th to 16th century, Europe was preparing for crusades. We all know crusades? Everybody? So, Europe was planning holy war on Islamic world. 12th to 16th century. And there was about to be a war. But at the same time, Middle East was planning something. They were planning a war on India. So it was a complex situation. 12th to 16th century, Europe wants to put a war on Islamic world, Middle East, and Middle East wants to conquer India because they found so much in India. They found gold, they found knowledge. They thought, well, better conquer that land. That's much better rather than exchanging something. Just conquer it, finish it off. So there were sultans, there were Gori, there were so many Islamic people. They came and they conquered India. And by the way, this knowledge, when crusades happened, Christians and Christianity, they came to Islamic world. There was a fight, and these crusades happened from 12th to 16th century. They came, they fought. War was one thing, but another thing was when you have a war, you get exchange of knowledge and culture. They came, they took all these books which were translated from in the Middle East from Sanskrit to Arabic language back to Europe. And in Europe, these books were translated from Arabic language to Greek. Now, you can imagine, like all the dates match. And Renaissance. When did Renaissance start in Europe? It was around 16th, 17th century. From 12th to 16th century, there were crusades. As soon as crusades finished, Renaissance started in Europe, France, and other places, because they had the books translated from Arabic language to Greek language. Now they had access to knowledge. Sanskrit to Arabic, from Arabic to Greek. Even today, if you go to Baghdad, there's a big library of Toledo. You go there, they have original manuscripts where text from Sanskrit was translated to Arabic language. So this is called knowledge transfer. From India to Middle East, from Middle East to Europe. And when they got the knowledge of arts, science, so many things, Vedic knowledge, what happened was there was a Renaissance. Renaissance means a change. Dark ages suddenly finished. And 18th century, that was a break point, period of enlightenment. Everybody knows Newton, Descartes, Locke, philosophers like Locke, Adam Smith, they were activists. Enlightenment, there was science, maths, technology, logic, rationality, so many things came. Now, if you trace this history, what is happening? This exactly matches. Knowledge goes from Vedic text in Sanskrit to Arabic countries to Europe, and Europeans, when they read this knowledge, West when it reads this knowledge, understands it, and then they come enter science. By the way, if you read history of Newton, I'll just tell you afterwards. But if you read history of Newton, he gave us 3 laws of motion. Everybody knows 3 laws of motion. He did work in optics, Newton. Now, from where did he get all this knowledge? That's a big question. Nobody can invent knowledge. You have to have some ideas. You have to have some seeds, principles. And people have read history. People have done researches. There's one mathematician and philosopher, John Dupre. He has done research into this field, and he has written a book, and he showed in that research that actually Newton had access to all this Greek text which were translated from Arabic language to Greek. And he had access to all these things. And in fact, Newton, in his personal life, if you read his personal life, he was very secretive. He never told anybody from where he's getting this knowledge and how he's doing experiments. Concept of gravity. Concept of gravity is right there in Vedas. It is called a Sankarshan. It is there. How planets move. Newton, it's 17th century. In our Vedic text, you have astronomy. 800 years before Newton, there were big astronomers in India. Varamveer, Bhaskaracharya. You go and Google, you read them. And those people have already talked about gravity. It was a long talk back in India. It was finished. And we started in Europe in 18th century with Newton. And that was called Enlightenment. So the knowledge transferred from Vedas to Greek, to Arabs, to Greek, and then you have science. So I just touched a small portion of science in ancient Vedic text, how this happens. But the question here is, what happened in history that India lost its Vedic knowledge? What happened? How did this plan of time destroy Vedic knowledge? Knowledge was transferred from India to Europe. That's one aspect. But how did it destroy it? How now in India, if you ask anybody Vedas, nobody knows. If you ask Vedic knowledge, come on, who knows? So time not only destroyed Vedic knowledge, but also destroyed the source of Vedic knowledge. If you know, when Mughals, Sultans, and when India was raided by Muslim countries, Islamic world, Middle East, what happened was, they not only destroyed Vedas, but they destroyed universities. There were two big universities. Just like in America, you have Stanford, Harvard. Okay, they are big universities. So at that time, from 11th to 19th century, there was destruction of two universities in India that were Nalanda and Takshila. Big universities. They were the center of the world. Many people all around the world, they used to come in those universities, read. And when Middle East came and it destroyed these universities, it took them 4 months to destroy its library. To burn those books, 4 months. You can imagine how many books that library should have. So they were just burning. It took 4 months. Still they couldn't destroy all the books. Some were stolen, many were destroyed. And this is how knowledge was lost to the world forever. But it's just destruction of Vedic knowledge is one thing. But even worse thing happened. Even worse than that, there was destruction not only of Vedas, but destruction of the sanctity of Vedic knowledge. That is, in one word you can call as sacrilege. There was something happening back in India that was even more dangerous than destruction of Vedas. And what was happening was, 200 years before our present time, East India Company came to India. Everybody knows East India Company now. East India Company, Britishers, they want to colonize the world, and they sent some people to India. East India Company, they came to India with a plea to trade, but the agenda was something else. And the agenda was to make people believe that Vedic knowledge is mythology. For example, Max Muller, you know Max Muller? He's a big East India Company person. He said that Vedic knowledge is a babble of tribal people. That's all he said. Simple. There was absolutely no basis. He said if you want to destroy India, if you want to colonize India, that was the agenda, colonization, no? If you want to colonize India, you have to do one thing, you have to destroy their knowledge. If you can destroy that knowledge, you can destroy people, no? That's simple as that. So, if you can't win somebody by sword, you win them by divide and rule. That was the policy. Divide them and rule. But to divide them, you have to create fight between them. And to create fight, you have to destroy their morals. And to destroy the morals, you have to destroy their culture. And to destroy their culture, you have to destroy the knowledge base. So they had this agenda. There were other people, Thomas Macaulay, William all these people, they came and they systematically, that's what the word I use, systematic destruction of Vedic knowledge. They systematically translated Vedas into English. They somehow propagated that this Vedic knowledge is not good for anything. It is a superstition. It is a mythology. And that's what we call today. ancient scriptures and Vedic knowledge. It's a mythology. Mythology means myth. Myth means which doesn't exist. Myth actually means which doesn't exist. It's a fairy tale. So this happened, and today we all in East all consider Vedas a mythology. If you ask what is the content of Vedas, some kind of mantras. Mantras, some tantras, that's all. What about science? Come on. Science is, forget science, Science is in the West. Science is for advanced people. Vedas for tribal people. For people who have nothing to do. This is what the situation today is. But that created a problem. That's the problem which I am talking about. Why so many people? The question was, what these people found in Vedic knowledge that they were so much scared about it. They wanted to destroy it. What did Middle East find in Vedas? That they wanted to take those books in their home and translate it into Arabic language. What did Greeks found in Vedic knowledge? That they took it with them and Enlightenment and Renaissance started. What was there in these books? That is unknown today to us. And that made them fearful. Why? Because when Britishers, when East India Company came to India, their one agenda was colonization. Now to colonize a country, you need to do two things. Either you defeat them with power, but Indian kings were quite powerful. So they couldn't really defeat them. So they had to convince them that they are inferior and we are superior. Domination. Superiority. But to prove that we are superior, you have to show that you have more knowledge. You are more advanced. But when they came to India, when they read Vedas, they found Vedas have much more knowledge than what they can comprehend. It was much beyond them. Even today, many scientists, they read Upanishads. For example, if you read that book, Tao of Physics, read Tao of Physics, go and download that book, Tao of Physics. It's a fantastic book. Upanishads are giving various hints what is reality, and of course, physics is all about knowing reality. That's what is reality all about, no? So they found science in Vedas. That was the problem, and West was thinking we are scientific. Entire world is in dark ages. We have somehow managed to get technology, science, superior. So we have the right to dominate others. And that's how they convinced people. And they told, see, we are there to actually make you learn culture. That's what their agenda was, their propaganda. We want to teach you and you should learn from us. We are meant to dominate you. That is colonization. Colonize other countries. Now what they found in Vedas, that they were so bewildered and scared. What they found in Vedas? They found in Vedas all knowledge, what you're learning today, and all knowledge which you will be learning in the future. For example, Vedas have 14 books. There is not just one book in Vedas. Just like you have one Bible. Bible also has many books within it. Old Testament, New Testament, Deuteronomy, Numbers, so many books. But Vedas, if you take Bible, you can put it in one shelf. If you take Quran, you can put it in one shelf. If you take Vedas, you can fill the entire room. Still you can't finish. There's so many books there in Vedas. There are 14 books in Vedas. But 14 books have subdivisions. Now what are those books? There are 4 Vedas, Rig Ved, Yajur Ved, Sam Ved, Athar Ved. There are 6 sub-books, Shiksha, Kal, Vyakaran, Nyay, Chand, Nirukta, and 4 Upvedas, Dhanur Ved, Gandhar Ved, Ayur Ved, and Sthapatya Ved. What are these? There's some Sanskrit names, don't worry about that. But these are containing knowledge, modern science. Now, how these books are containing modern knowledge? So let me just give you some examples of that. For example, you have beauty parlor. Now, people have beauty parlors now. But Vedas, they have science of beauty parlor at that time, which is called a Shekhar Kriya. The beauty parlor is all about hairs, no? Hairs and body. So it is called Shekhar Kriya. you have fashion designing, and there are, in Vedas, this art is mentioned as nepathyam. People like to go to gym, make their body, and that kind of art is mentioned in Vedas by the name Alekyam. So Vedas give 64 arts. 64 arts. And in those 64 arts you have knitting, you have running, you have gambling, chess playing, swimming, and all those are taught in a very scientific way. This is coming from Vedas. Rig Veda is talking about maths. In fact, by the way, if you go, it is a documented fact. Zero came from India, no? Everybody knows zero comes from India. Without 0 and 1, you don't have computers. You don't have computers. Computers are all about 0, 1, no? Bits and bytes, just two things. So, without the concept of 0, you don't have computers. Concept of infinity is mentioned in Vedas. Calculus is mentioned in part of Vedas. There is a particular book, Surya Siddhant, which was written 2000 years before Newton, talking about calculus and trigonometry, which in Sanskrit it is called Trikon Ganit. Trikon Ganit, triangle, no? Calculus, it's trigonometry. It's all triangle, sine theta, cos theta. It's all that. Differential equations. There's a portion of Vedas in Surya Siddhant. There's a portion of Vedas which is called as Brahmatark, which is talking about trigonometry. This is about maths. Now, how can these people, whom East India Company and others, they called it as mythology and superstition, have so many things? Now scholars are finding. Now more research is done. I am associated in India with Indian Philosophical Research Council. There is research going on in Delhi and Bangalore. I am in the panel. It's a government-aided institute funded research, and they're finding now that there's so much knowledge locked in Vedas. Before anybody found it. Chemistry talking about alloys. If you go to India, so we have a place, Qutub Minar. If you don't know, Indians know. Qutub Minar. And at Qutub Minar, you have an iron pillar. Now, that iron pillar, that's unique. That was made around 2000 years back. And that the uniqueness of that iron pillar is it never rusts. Never rust. There's no iron. There's no chemistry. I mean, you can ask chemistry department. There's no chemistry which can make iron without rusting. You need to make alloy. You need to make steel. And that was the technology back at that time. Chemistry was advanced. Chemistry was coming from the branch Rasayan Shastra. And we knew back in India, people knew how to make gold out of iron. How do you do that? It's so simple. There were procedures there. Rasayan Shastra, which in Greek, when this knowledge went in Greek, it was translated into English as alchemy. People know alchemy. Newton was interested in alchemy. At the last of his career, he got really interested in alchemy. Later, people thought alchemy is magical, or whatever government thought. By alchemy, if they can make gold, then it can be a problem, so they stopped everything. It was just suppressed, but it was a very powerful science. Chemistry is from Vedic knowledge. Physics. I was talking about 3 laws of motion. 3 laws of motion are mentioned in Yajurveda. Law of inertia, law of action-reaction. That's what 3 laws of motion are. Law of gravitation. It's all mentioned in Yajurveda. With equations. Now, I don't have slides now. Otherwise, I generally, when I do in universities, I show slides. I show in that all the equations written in Sanskrit and mathematics, in fact. You can simply see. For example, Pythagoras theorem. We all know Pythagoras came to India in the East, and he got Pythagoras theorem from the bank of Ganges. It was here. Music. Pythagoras is father of music. Everybody knows, no? He brought music in the Western world. Music was there before him also. People used to dance, of course. But he gave mathematics to music. Mathematical understanding. He was infatuated by maths and music. And that he learned back from Vedic knowledge. What about medicine? I myself am a doctor, allopathic doctor. But when I read Ayurveda is a Vedic medicine book, which we know, which exists since 3,000 years with us. Now that book, if you read, you'll be simply surprised that modern medicine is having so less power than Ayurveda. By modern medical system, I used to treat patients. You don't have treatment of many diseases. You don't have treatment of cancer. You don't have treatment of arthritis. You don't have treatment of blood pressure. You can control it, but you can't treat it. But if you go to Ayurvedic medicine, you can treat these diseases very easily, no problem. Because according to Ayurveda, treatment is not by medicines. Yeah, Ayurveda says your clinic is your kitchen, hospital is your kitchen, and your medicine is your food. If you know what to eat, what not to eat, you never get diseased, first of all. Simple. So that is the power of Ayurveda. Ayurveda also mentions allopathy. Allopathy in Ayurveda is called Vishvidya. Treatment by poison. Allopathy is toxins from microbes. You take toxins from microbes, antibiotics and all these things. And you make antibiotics and then you administer. It's called Vishvidya. To kill. Allopathy is to kill microbes. That's allopathy. Ayurveda is to make your body more powerful, so that you don't have to kill. That's all. If you have soil, if you put seeds, and the soil is not prepared, the seeds don't germinate. That's all. Finished. No. But if your soil is prepared, you put seeds, they germinate. So modern medicine is, you get bacteria, infection, you kill bacteria, finished. Ayurveda is, you make the soil dry, bacteria cannot thrive. They leave your body, simple. So that's Ayurveda. Ayurveda works on preparing yourself, makes you strong. Modern medicine believes in killing. That's a difference, at least what I found. And in my practice, I found I could treat many diseases. Just like in modern medicine, you take for fever, what do you take here? Or back in India, we take aspirin. Huh? Tylenol, okay. People eat Tylenol, fine. So it's a brand name, fine. So it's paracetamol, maybe, Tylenol. So you take the medicine, and your fever, it'll take around 10 to 15 minutes for a fever to come down. But Ayurvedic is magic. I administer Ayurveda now. I give patients, I don't practice, but people who come to me, I help them. I give them Ayurveda. 3 seconds, your fever is over. 3, you can count. 1, 2, 3, and fever is gone. And I was surprised. It's magic. First statement of Ayurvedic text. There's an Ayurvedic text, Charak Samhita. And Ashtang Hridayam. First statement is, Ayurveda is magic. Magic not in the sense you are doing some hocus pocus, but it acts fast. It acts fast. Very fast. And then there's surgery. Back. You might think, come on, if somebody gets accident, how do you operate them? Surgery is modern technological advancement? No, of course not. Back then, there was surgery. There was anesthesia. There are chapters for anesthesia mentioned in Shishrut Samhita. In fact, today, modern surgery, we know just 110 instruments, 20 instruments, surgical instruments. Ayurveda mentions 250 instruments. Even now, ophthalmologists, ENT surgeons, they go to this book, Shishrut Samhita, they try to learn from those instruments. You can imagine how much advanced this Vedic knowledge was. So much modern science was there. There is, okay, fine, when your health is okay, what do you want? Entertainment? Fine, there was entertainment. There is science of entertainment in Vedas. And that was called Gandharva Ved. So that is talking about the science of making films, movies. There's a science behind movies, no? Filmology. There's a branch, filmology, okay. So that's mentioned in Gandharva Veda. That is Natya Shastra. How to do dramas, how to depict, how to write poems, how to sing. All those sciences are mentioned there. Then you have Dhanurved, politics, science of law. You have civil law, criminal laws. Then you have punishments. And then you have legal principles. All these are mentioned in Vedic knowledge. Chanakya Niti, people have read. Vidur Niti. Artha Shastra, where we talk about Achar, Vyavahar and Prayashchit. Simple. That's music. If you come to music, what music has? Pitch, notes, tempo, scales. This is what is Gandharva. It's Sur, Rag, Lay, Tal. Simple. It's all coming from that Vedic knowledge. All coming from there. You have Sthapatya Ved. You have architecture. Science of architecture. In if you go to India and if you see monumental buildings, old monumental buildings which were destroyed by Middle East, if you see them, they were very complex buildings. How did they build them? Without maths. You have to have sufficient maths to build complex buildings. You have to have sufficient expertise to make so much artwork on the walls, no? Like Taj Mahal. Go to Taj Mahal. You were reading about Taj Mahal yesterday. You were reading. So, if you go to Taj Mahal is seventh wonder of the world, and you can imagine how much maths should have gone there to make that Taj Mahal. To make a curved space, it's like if you have like square. If you ask any architecture, if you want to make it curved building, you need all calculations of trigonometry, calculus. You need maths to understand how much is the tensile strength, whether that will break or not. All these things you need, and they should have got those science. Otherwise, how can they build so big structures? So that's there. There is science of agriculture, Parashar Smriti. You want to do agriculture? Okay, Vedic knowledge is providing you that science. You want to do anything? It's there. You want to make computers? That was there in Vedic knowledge. There's, Vyakarana, Sanskrit grammar, Panini, Sanskrit. Computers is coming from Sanskrit language. I am not saying this. If you go to Wikipedia, if you type Noam Chomsky is linguistics. He was in computer linguistics. He said that I owe my debt to Panini Vyakaran, to Sanskrit grammar, for understanding computer languages. Sanskrit grammar, if anybody has read Sanskrit, I have read Sanskrit, it's the most scientific language existing on this earth. Most scientific. All the rules of Sanskrit language can be exactly simulated in computer language. Loops, you have loops, and then you have other systems in computer language. It's all in Sanskrit, Panini Sanskrit grammar. Okay, so having said that, people took all this science from India, but they left one thing here. What did they leave here? They took maths, physics, and biology, chemistry, medicine, entertainment. You can think whatever you want. Fashion designing, beauty parlor, dance, everything. From the times of Aristotle, when there were people coming, there was export-import, they were exchanging knowledge. Then Middle East, then Greeks, and then East India Company. And they left one thing. Voltaire, Francis Voltaire, was a big philosopher, Europe. He said in 17th century, that was a period of enlightenment, renaissance. He said all knowledge is coming from the bank of Ganges. Bank of Ganges means India. India was known at that time. At that time, around 16th, 17th century or 14th century, if you have to come to India, you would not ask people have to go to India. You should ask, I have to go. If you happen to ask, okay, I want to go to India, people will tell you, okay, keep on walking to the east. When you find a place where everybody takes bath daily, that's the land of India. Because people take bath, people keep on taking bath in India, morning, evening, and that is Ganges. Ganges is the most famous river of India. India is known by Ganges. So all of them came, they took knowledge, but they left one thing. You know what they left? They left God. They left God, take all scientific knowledge to the West. Now we are not talking about West or East. We are not talking about that. We are not comparing West or East. What we are trying to say is, they understood that the power of this place, of that India, of East, was not only in science, it was in science and spirituality. They knew how to fuse them. There is absolutely no dichotomy between science and spirituality, science and God, which unfortunately modern times we have created, or it has been created unnecessarily. Religion is bad, science is good. It's not like that. Maybe there are some overtones to these words. Religion, that's a bad word. But the point is, if you understand Vedic knowledge, you can understand science, any philosophy blossoms into spirituality. It has to end there. It has to end there. If science cannot help us to understand who we are, if science cannot help us what is the meaning of life, then what's the point of doing science? What's the point of doing science? That's the goal of any knowledge, to understand who we are, what is my meaning of life, what is the purpose of life, what I have to do, and that's how we'll be happy and peaceful. So these people, when they went to India, they not only appreciated the East for their power, for its glory, for its gold, for its spices, for its export-import. They understood that these people are happy because they have the power to fuse science with spirituality. They know how to do that. That was the secret of Vedic knowledge, which got lost to this word. That's what we are trying to do here, tell people that we're not talking about religion, we're not talking about Hinduism, we're not talking about Christianity, we're not talking about that. We're talking about knowledge, which is not known to people. Now, you can do one thing. After hearing me, if you want to know more about this, read Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is a book which is not a religious book. If you read that book, many people have praised that book. Vedas are so big, you can't access them now. You can go to Google and access them. Now Google has so many things. I've told you, now go and see. But if you read Bhagavad Gita is giving you philosophy behind spirituality. It's not just giving you spirituality. It's giving you science behind spirituality. Bhagavad Gita is talking about all these things in principles, not in details. Vedas is talking in details. Bhagavad Gita is talking in principles. Bhagavad Gita is talking about maths, biology, physics, chemistry, and spirituality, and God. And trying to put all those in your life so that your life becomes holistic, complete. And then you can be happy, peaceful, and satisfied. That's all we want, no? So, thank you very much for listening to me. I could have gone in more details if you would have got slides or whatever. But anyway, I think I pretty much gave you some kind of insight that there's a lot more to know in life. Socrates said, unexamined life is not worth living. It's not worth living. Life is not just meant to just pass your time. That's not life. Life is meant to examine, to research, to know. Life, every day should be a day of learning. Every day should be a day of learning something new. That's life. And that is what Vedas are offering you. Vedas are offering you this. Vedas are offering you all aspects of your life, whatever you want to know. And you can start with Gita. Gita is a book which will give you an entrance into Vedic knowledge. Otherwise, it's difficult to understand. Decode. Vedas are in sutras, they are in codes. To decode that, it's difficult. Many people have done, you can see on net, there are things. But you can take the Gita, we have a Gita here. If anybody wants, they can read that Gita daily and understand what's your life meant for. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much with this. Anything? If anybody wants to ask, otherwise we'll stop. I hope you could hear me, or I could hear myself. Really, I should have asked this question before this seminar. You could hear me? Okay, good. Back? They are all, this is why I'm asking. Okay.